Good morning, world. I am Judy, your web based therapist, making therapy accessible and convenient for our clients in Florida and New York, and of course, sharing information worldwide. Today, I want to talk about five depression facts. Five things, just random facts about depression. Because, it's one of those things many of us, especially right now, many of us are experiencing. I mentioned recently that the CDC did a survey that showed that depressive symptoms are way high over the last few months during the pandemic. And of course, people experiencing the who have a history of depression are experiencing a lot more of it. So today I want to talk about five depression facts because a lot of people who don't normally have depressive symptoms are experiencing them. So let's talk about these facts. But before we get into that, I want to take a quick moment and say if you are subscribed, thank you so much for being a part of our world. And if you are not yet subscribed, please take a moment and click the subscribe button below so that you can become a part of this wonderful world of ours. And of course, if you'd like to purchase one or three of my books, there's also a link below that will take you to a website that shows you all the different options of the different places that you can get one or three of my books. Okay, let's get back to work. The first thing that I want people to know about depression is that depression is experienced on a range. It's almost, I guess, I don't want to say a continuum, but I'll say a range, meaning that some people can have a there's such a thing as a low grade depression that it may last longer. It may not feel as intense. A person experiencing a low grade depression can a lot of time and often do fully function, engage, and they're able to go about life and just do what they do and do their ever and take part in their everyday life, but they still have a bit of they still have a lower grade of version of a level of depression that they're experiencing. It's just not as intense, not as in your face, but it's still there and it's still hurting and it's still impacting their life or their quality of life. Or you could have that person experiencing that clinical, that major depressive disorder to the point where it is so debilitating that they cannot get out of bed, they cannot do the basic everyday things, they can't go out of so they can't get out of bed or they can't go to work and they just can't do life because of the depression. So it's experienced on a range, which is why sometimes people may miss it because we have an idea, or at least society has this idea of what depression looks like. So, if a person experiencing a lower grade of depression may not notice it, or may not get the services, or may not get the assistance that they need because their depression is not as debilitating as a person going through a major depressive symptom or a major depressive episode or something of that nature. Too. Not everyone experiences depression the same way. Sometimes for some people that depression takes them down and then they just can't really function. They can't get out of bed. They can't do this. They can't do their everyday activities of daily living. They can't do their everyday functioning because of depression. But somebody else may experience the depression differently, where they are through the depression they're able to still get up and do everything, but inside they're dying. That elephant is still sitting on their soul, but they're still finding ways to get up every day and do all those things that they normally would do. But that does not mean that the depression is not there. It's still there. It's still hurting. It still needs to be addressed. It's just that the person is able to function a little bit better than someone else. Or some people, they see the depression, they experience the symptoms and they try to mask them. They'll do things like drinking or try to counter the depression. Maybe the person will again, I mentioned this before, how a lot of the celebrity suicides that we've heard of, people often wonder what could happen or how could this happen because this person was the life of the party. But this person was the life of the party because they were drinking to bury their soul, to bury their pains, to bury the depression that they were experiencing. So those little things happen where a person is, they opt to, or their method of coping is to do so, or engage in some less than healthy coping mechanisms that don't necessarily help with the depression, but make it worse in a lot of ways. So, different people will experience their depression differently. Three, depressive symptoms that last 2 or more weeks, 2 weeks or longer, is considered clinical depression. And that definitely needs to be addressed. It's that's that point where you should be talking to your insurance company or your employee assistance program about seeing someone, about looking to get some professional assistance with that depression, because once you start going into experiencing depressions for 2 solid weeks, um and of course, there is more than just the 2 weeks. There are the number of symptoms or the types of symptoms that you're experiencing. But if you're experiencing more than one depressive symptom for at least 2 weeks or 2 weeks or more, it's that it is definitely time to be reaching out to professional help, because 2 weeks or more is considered clinical depression. And yes, you definitely need to be getting help with that. 4, depression can be induced by many things. Things like a situation, maybe losing a job, maybe the loss of a relationship, loss of a member of your family, or physical. Sometimes physical ailments can lead to depression. Sometimes medication. I mean, I had that where I took where I was on a medication that it almost felt like the moment it hit my body, it was like, hey, medication, depression. So there are a lot of things that can cause or that can induce a depression. So it's important that we're making sure that we're not just expecting, oh, yeah, depression only happens when this happened. There are a lot of different situations that could cause or that can induce depression. So don't don't beat yourself up or don't try to judge or classify what whether or not your situation qualifies for depression. Because if you're experiencing depressive symptoms, you're experiencing depressive symptoms, and you need to take the time and deal with those. And finally, the best way to get rid of depression is by addressing it. A lot of times people try to stuff it, to smash it or smush it down, or they'll try to drink it away, eat it away, ignore it, pretend it's not happening. People will try a lot of different ways of avoiding the depression so that they don't have to deal with it. The best and most effective way to deal with depression, to get rid of depression, is to take the time to address it. Address the fact that, yes, you are experiencing depressive symptoms. Maybe figure out what is the source of your depressive symptoms so that you can address the source and hopefully get rid of the symptoms. And if it is something more clinical, something that is longer term, figuring out what you're going to do about getting rid of or managing those symptoms, or making them go away, whatever it is that you're gonna do. But the best and most effective way to get rid of depression is to take the time and address the depression. There all these other things that people try to do, drinking, pretending it's not happening, praying about it, or whatever it is that other people may say they do, unless until you start addressing the depression, you're going to be doing all those other things while carrying your depression. Let's do a quick recap. One, depression is experienced on a range. You may have some people will have a low grade depression, and some people will have that major depressive episode, or some people will have a little bit something in the middle. It's experienced on a range. It could be super high, it could be super low, or it could be in the middle somewhere. Two, not everyone is going to experience depression the same way. Some people, yes, their depression is that they stay in bed, but for some people, their depression is that they start drinking and become the life of the party while holding on to their symptoms. Three, depressive symptoms lasting more than 2 weeks is considered clinical depression, and you should be seeking help for that. Reach out to your insurance company, reach out to your EAP, and get the help that you need. Four, depression can be induced by many different situations, or by many different things. It could be a situation, a loss that you've experienced. Sometimes physical ailments can have depression as a side effect. Sometimes medications can have depression as a side effect. Don't try to. There's no right reason or right thing or that qualifies for depression. It's if you're experiencing the symptoms, you're experiencing the symptoms, and that's all there is to it. And finally, the best way to get rid of depression is to address it. Pe- all these things that people try to do to mask it, to pretend it's not happening, none of those really help get rid of it. In order to get rid of the symptoms, in order to get rid of the depression, you have to take the time and acknowledge that yes, the depression is there and do something about getting rid of the depression and the symptoms. As always, if you or someone you know happens to be going through something that's more than you can handle, please remember that there are a lot of professionals like myself who are available, able, and willing to help, and are even providing remote services. So please figure out who those people are in your community so that if you need the assistance, you can reach out and get the help that you need. And that is all we have for today. Good morning, world. Have an awesome day.